Jeff Caskey, citizen of the Cherokee Nation, Eastern Oklahoma Technical Assistant Specialist for the Intertribal Agriculture Council. We've got a cow-calf operation, but we also produce our own hay and bale our own hay. So we've got 80 acres that we own at our house, and then I've got 170 acres leased. And I've got 38 head of mama cows, and we've got calves on the ground now. And we didn't have much of a hay season this year because we didn't have any rain. So we got one cut, and hopefully this fall we'll be able to maybe get some more, but I don't know, we're running out of time, so we may not. If not, then we'll be buying hay this year. So I'm originally from Tishomingo. My wife and I are both from right there where our land's at. She grew up right up the road from it, and I grew up right down the road from it. So we just always lived there. As far as agriculture goes, my granddad was a farmer and rancher, and my dad didn't want anything to do with it because he saw, how hard it was, and how little income you make, and for him it was just he just didn't want to do it. I don't blame him. It's hard to justify. So there was that gap. But before that, our whole family had always been into farming and ranching for years and years and years. So I just kind of always had it in my blood. I just like being out on the land. I just like being outside. I like being on the land. I like seeing different things on the land. I like seeing the animals, wild animals and domestic. But learning about the plants and the soil and the animals, I think, and the way it all works together, I just think it's amazing. You never stop learning about what's going on around you that most people don't even think about, We're in this weird time where there's a lot of older producers, and they're not going to be around long, so we need to get younger people involved. And it's kind of like, how do we do that? So you have to give the younger people that want to get involved, you have to boost them up and give them confidence to know that they can do it, so that they don't get scared right out of the box and not ever want to do it, So we bought a bigger property to start with. We started out with a smaller property, and then as we grew, we outgrew our property, but we also had a better income, so we, got USDA or FSA loans, and we got a bigger property, and it was beautiful. It was like 150 acres. I had 250 pecan trees, and it was lots of water on it. It was nice, but we had like a trailer house to live in on it, which is fine. But we've got 4 kids, so you outgrow that pretty quick. So we love that land, but it didn't have the living space that we needed. And so down the road, this other place came up, and it has a beautiful house, and the house is the main selling point of it. And then the land's marginal land, but there's it's 80 acres, and it's nice and has some water. So my wife and my kids all wanted to move to that place, and I was like, oh, okay. I don't care where we sleep at, So anyway, we sold the place that we had. We essentially did a land swap, and we took that place and moved our loans and everything to the new place. So that's how we got to where we were. The leases, people that I know, all of it was somewhat idle, except for one. One lease was a hay lease that is in my wife's family. But these were idle lands that are sitting there. I happen to know the owner, and just said, hey, why don't you let me lease that property? And some of them at first were like, no, I don't think so. And it's a matter of, like you say, you got to kind of sell it. So I'm like, well, here's what I'll do. I'll fix the fences. I'll clear some brush on it. Don't cost you anything. And they said, okay, that sounds like a good idea. And so then they start saying, well, I think we'll lease it for this. I'm like, well, here's the deal. I'm going to put this much money and effort into it, and it's not costing you anything. Why don't you just let me do it like that, year to year, and then if we get down the road and I've improved it, and you feel like you need to get some money on it, then we'll talk about it then. And so after they see you manage that land properly, they're like, hey, you know what? Don't worry about it. You keep the management up, and we'll do it. So, but it's hard to find that kind. I mean, it's hard to find people that'll do that, that'll trust you to do it. I just knew these people, and so both of the tracks that I lease for grazing like that are within a mile from my house, so I can drive my little side by side over there, which is nice. My hay lease is about 7 or 8 miles down the road, which is still not bad, but it's family land, and I lease it just specifically for hay. I think when I got starting small, it's easy to set goals because I didn't jump in with like both feet all at once, So I started small and then slowly built my herd, slowly built my land base, my equipment, all that stuff. And one of my first goals was to pay off, make sure that a lot of that small debt's taken care of. So I don't need to have a big cattle loan hanging over my head when I have a big land loan, or I don't need a big equipment loan. So if we can take a lot of that small debt out of there and then focus more of that debt towards the land, that it makes it a little more manageable, I guess. Mm-hmm. So that was it's easier, I think, to set your goals where if you do a 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year, if you're small and start small, than if you jump in and have all this debt all around you. I think it would be kind of harder. It would be harder to set your goals, especially long term, because you're tied into that for a long time. I mean, I would say the USDA, the people, we're really lucky, and Bryan County is really lucky as well. We've got really good offices in the USDA. The FSA, the NRCS, they're all really good to work with, and they kind of help you when you're starting the process. They kind of give you guidance on your business plan and kind of how to navigate that, but funding as well. So I would say they're a big partner in it because essentially they own all of it right now. But my family too, both my family and my wife's family, and then our family. But they have faith that we can do it, and when we were starting out, when they needed to co-sign, they're like, yeah, they trust that we can do it. We had our own business before, and we blew their minds that we could make it work, but we did, and sold it and made a little money on it. So they trust that we know what we're doing at this point. I think just being persistent and emailing or calling or going in these offices and kind of demanding that communication from some of these government agencies and saying, hey, I need this to succeed, so why is it not readily available to me? Why do I need to even come in here when I'm on your email list, I'm on your text message list, and yet I still never even knew this program existed? It's knowing them for a little while, but also having them. So one of them's my neighbor across the road, but the land's down the road a little ways. But one part of it for him was saying, hey, I see how you take care of your place right across the road. So, I mean, I know you're going to take care of it, because I see you taking care of it the way I would like it taken care of, other than letting it overgrow, which it already was. So I was like, hey, we can fix this thing up and clean this hay meadow up, get these little trees out of there and stuff, and get some good native grasses established back there, and hopefully choke back some of these weeds. And that's part of it, just seeing you in action and saying, hey, I see what your game plan is, and I follow that. So, but that's part of it. And sometimes it's trust, and they say, well, we don't have anything to lose, so we'll trust you. But some people don't think like that. You see a piece of land, and then you figure out, well, who owns it? Well, I know that person, or I don't know that person. But my starting point was, hey, it's close to my house, so which is nice, because then I don't have to drive all over the place. Or I don't have to, when it goes to moving cows, you don't have to travel on major highways or anything. So I wanted it to be close to my house. So I find these kind of vacant tracts of land just driving by them, And then I look and see, who owns it, or ask around who owns that. Well, then I find out who it is. Okay, so then I kind of get a game plan. I'll look at a satellite image at the tract of land. I'll see how much open acreage there is, how many trees, how much water, is it worth messing with? And so then I'll ask the owner, hey, is that something you'd ever be interested in leasing? And they're like, eh. I'm like, well, I tell you what, let me go out there and just look at the fences and just see if it's even worth messing with. And usually they're like, okay, go ahead. So you go look at the fences and you figure that into your plan, because you're like, all right, how much fence am I going to have to replace? And then you go up to them, essentially it's a proposal. It's not worth any money, but you're like, hey, I can fix those fences. I can, graze, brush hog, spray, whatever they want to do on their open fields, which I don't spray a lot, but, kind of give them a management plan. Like, here's what I'd like to do, and I'll do it over the year if you'll lease that to me. And so then they're like, I could do that, I don't see why not. And one of them was like, well, I like to hunt in the winter. I was like, that's fine, I'll pull everything off of there if that's all you want to do for it. He's like, yeah, we might look at that. And then later he's like, don't worry about it, I'm not going to hunt this year. I think they just didn't want to mess with it, It was just like, so if you did all the work and he set it in front of them and said, here you go, here's what I want to do, then they're more apt to say, yeah, okay. I mean, they just didn't want to, they didn't want to say, well, I'm not fixing that fence because I'm not going to run anything out there. Or, I'm not cleaning those trees. I'm not doing anything with it, right? It's just sitting there and I own it. And that was, that's part of the problem. But also if you have a plan that says I can fix that, or I'll take care of some of that, or whatever, you're not going to have to pay for it. I will. I think that's worth them saying, yeah, I could do that, because that needed to be done anyway. I'd like to have more land right next to my house. I would like to let some of these leases go so that, hey, someone else may have the opportunity. And now that trust is kind of built there, maybe the owners will see, hey, that's not a bad idea to let someone come in there and lease that for, a limited amount of money or whatever. Now it's worth more money than it was to lease, but to let someone else have the chance to kind of keep up the management on those other places.